We all experience fear. You're not a coward for experiencing fear. Fear is an indication that you need to pay attention to something. And sometimes we'll go look at that and see what it is that the fear is pointing at, and we'll realize it's nothing really to be afraid of. Or in some cases, we realize, okay, I do need to pay attention to that thing over there because it might be a danger to me. And you want to, of course, avoid that. The main thing about fear is it the quiet driver of your life that is steering you in all the wrong directions, steering you away from all of the possibilities, opportunities, and your potential that you could be fulfilling? Or is it just there as an alarm clock to wake you up and let you know that something is coming at you that you need to avoid? In this video, we're going to break this down because it is the single biggest limitation that people put between themselves and the life that they could be living. It's the limitation that they put between themselves and their potential, the you could be becoming. A lot of people don't think that they are being driven by fear. A lot of people think that fear is not their problem. But for most people, it is. And I know this because when I teach people about their values, they often put security and safety as their highest value. And that's a clear indication that fear is what's driving you, and fear is limiting you tremendously from living the life you could be living. I know it feels really unpleasant when you experience fear, and our knee-jerk reaction when we feel something very unpleasant is to just get away from it and get rid of it, throw it away, destroy it, demolish it, and that's not going to help you. Fear is a part of you. We need to accept that fear is a part of us, and that often fear is telling us something very, very important, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Think of fear as an alarm clock. What do we use an alarm clock for? To wake us up. And that's what fear is there for you, is built into you to alarm you to something, to wake you up. If you're not paying attention, you could make a really bad decision that could harm you. That's where fear is really useful, very, very important. Imagine if you don't turn the alarm clock off. The alarm clock wakes you up, you don't turn it off, you get out of bed, and you take it with you, with everything that you do throughout your entire day, with that alarm beeping the entire time. You will probably annoy pretty much everyone else around you. And at some point, somebody might come up to you and say, hey, would you turn that alarm clock off? You don't need it. You're not sleeping. You're not in bed. Why are you carrying this alarm clock with you beeping like that? And you say, just in case I fall asleep. Now that would be silly, wouldn't it? But that's usually how we're handling our fear. This is usually how we relate to fear. We hold on to it, we keep it, it goes unconscious because we can't consciously stay aware of it all the time. But when it becomes unconscious, it actually becomes more powerful. If you don't know that it's there, it doesn't mean that it's not affecting your choices and your decisions. It's still there, affecting all of those things, but you don't know it. So you have less control over it. You just feel it, it's an impulse, and it guides where you go, which means it's usually limiting you because now fear has overstayed its welcome. If we put fear in its proper perspective, meaning being a servant to you rather than a master, we can use fear and leverage fear to help us. We can be aware of it when it beeps and wakes us up to a possible bad choice or a bad decision that we're about to make. And then we stop and think, okay, I need to gather more information. Now we got to be careful that if we always let fear get in our way and we always hesitate and we start waiting and not making decisions, this can become a big problem too, because we can always convince ourselves that we need more information and that we need to wait. There's waiting in the sense of I'm waiting for a bus or I'm waiting for an airplane, but there's also waiting as a mindset. And we want to stay out of the waiting as a mindset, because then we'll just keep making excuses why we can't do something or we shouldn't do something, or we just need to put it off for a little bit longer. And this again is where fear starts to control you rather than serve you. You think you're not making a decision, you think you're putting that decision off, but in fact, you are allowing the circumstances around you to make that decision for you, because life doesn't stop while you're waiting, life continues on. And so that is, in fact, a decision. So when you find yourself perpetually waiting to do something, waiting to take an action, realize that that is probably fear, and you are allowing fear to determine your life. Security is important. It is essential. We can't live without it. When we have enough, then it's time to move on to those higher values. Now it's time to take risk. Well, what if I fail? What if I fall flat on my face? What if people laugh at me and I'm embarrassed? That kind of fear triggers what feels like life-threatening fears. It feels like you are literally being threatened, but the truth is that you're not. And so what if you fail? All of the most successful people in the world know that success doesn't come without failure. Success, in fact, is a succession of failures. It's a succession of failure without quitting until you finally succeed, until you learn what it is that you need to know. But people are so afraid to step out and take those risks because of that reason. They think that it's going to be the end of their life if they fail, but it's not. And you're going to be fine. And you have to bring conscious awareness to this. When you fixate on security, that should tell you right there, the reason you're fixating on security is because you're focused on your fears. And here's the thing, as long as you're focused on your fears, you will never feel secure enough. This takes shifting your attention away from what you're afraid of and to what it is that you want. We should always keep a little space in our minds for what it is that we fear, because we do want to avoid that. We do want to make good choices, and fear will bring your attention to things that you haven't been paying attention to that might get in your way, that might cause a problem. But it's usually quite minor. We have to shift our attention to what it is that we want, to put fear in its proper perspective. And that's why it's so important to know what it is that you truly value and put your attention there and ask yourself, do I have enough security? Will I be fine even if the worst case scenario happens? And in most cases, you are. Like I said, what you think is so risky is not that risky. This has happened to me multiple times in my life, and I've completely recovered from that. Now, I'm not suggesting that you take huge risks or gamble or anything like that. You don't have to. Most of the things that you want don't require that. What will determine the rest of your life is allowing fear to make your decisions for you, to affect your biggest decisions in your life. Because fear is so unconscious for most people, they spend their lives reacting to it rather than responding to it. What is the difference between reacting to your fear and responding to your fear? Reacting to your fear is just that knee-jerk reaction. If it looks scary, I move away from it. Responding to your fear is, it looks scary, but let me really look into this. Is it actually something that is truly scary? And if it does come true, if it happens, does it really derail my life? Is it worth trying and even failing? Will I still be better off in the long run? In many cases, you will be. So responding to your fear is about truly assessing what it is. What is it? What is the fear pointing to? And is it really as scary as it looks? And should it really stop me from doing what it is that I want to do? Handling your fear in a healthy way is really about finally looking under the bed to see if there's anything scary underneath there. It's about finally opening the closet door and looking in the dark and seeing, is there really a threat here? And when we can understand this, then we can move through fear. We can put it in its proper place and see our values beyond the fear and go toward what it is that we want. The cost of not doing this is a life lived with lots of regret and lots of, I wish I had done this and I wish I had done that. Imagine right now that that decision is in front of you this moment, because it actually is. From this point on, how is it you want to live the rest of your life? You can make that choice right now, that you're going to live a life of value. You're going to live a life of seeking your potential, finding out what potential do you truly have? What is it that you can do? And at the same time, you're not going to dismiss fear. You're going to accept it. And when you do, you're going to look at, well, what is the fear pointing at? Is it something I really need to address? And if it is, address it. If it's not, realize the fear was based on nothing or based on some old program you've been carrying around, and move on. It's essential. We have to be safe and secure before we can really do anything else. If our life is being threatened, all we can think about is survival. If we haven't eaten for days, if we don't have a roof over our heads, if we can't pay our bills, then safety and security become the main focus. And what I've discovered coaching many, many people and teaching many students is that when we elicit values around what's most important to them, safety and security not only show up as one of the values that they want to pursue, it often shows up as one of their highest values. People would insist that, no, this is really, really important to me. I have to feel more secure. I have to feel more safe. And so I would ask them those questions. They're like, is your life being threatened? Well, no. Or do you have an income? Yes, I have an income. Or are you able to eat, pay your bills, everything like that? And they say, well, of course, yeah, of course I can. And then I would ask them, well, why the focus on safety? Why the focus on security? And they would say, well, I just don't feel secure. I don't feel safe. I need to make sure that everything I do is safe and secure. And so I would ask them, well, what are you doing that is so risky that you have to focus on this so much? And the truth is they weren't doing much of anything that you could really call risky. But what they thought is all the things that they wanted to do came with all of these fears about what if it doesn't work out? What if it goes wrong? And of course, those are all possibilities. When you pursue something, most people don't succeed the first time. We often do fail multiple times. Failure is not an absolute. It's not the end of it unless you quit. And sometimes it is the right time to quit something. If it's not really working for you, if it's not really fulfilling your values, then it's okay to quit those things and reassess and then find out, okay, well, what would really fulfill me? If you're succeeding a lot at accomplishments that don't really fulfill you, then what is the point? What I started to realize when working with people is that if you're so focused on your security, that tells me something really important, that you must be focused on your fears. And if you're focused on your fears all the time, then security is going to be very important to you. Not only that, though, it will never be enough. If you think about it, if we think of a person's home, and we want our homes to be safe, we want our homes to be secure, so we put a lock on the door. That's normal, right? But if security is the focus, then we need to do more, don't we? We need to put bars on the windows. We need to put an alarm system. And when you walk out the door, then you're not safe, right? So you need to wear a bulletproof vest. You need to have a full-time guard at your home to watch over the place. You need a bodyguard when you're walking around. How far do you want to take security and safety? The thing about security and safety is it's not very fulfilling. It is essential. We need it. But we only need enough so that we can start focusing on higher values. So we can start moving our lives in a direction of fulfilling higher values so we can feel more and more fulfilled. Focusing on safety and security will make you feel stuck. You will not move beyond that. When you think about all of the things that you want to accomplish, if you're putting safety first above anything else, you're probably not going to even take the first step to get there. So how do we get beyond this? Well, it's really important to know what your higher values are so that you can start shifting your attention to those higher values. Values like happiness, joy, peace, passion, success, accomplishment. And if there are any major risks, like I'm not suggesting that you do anything life-threatening or anything that's threatening to your health or to your income or anything that would wipe out your savings, most of the things that you want to do don't require that. So you need to ask yourself, is it really that risky? And most of the time, it's not. Chances are you're really just living in your head. You're focusing on all of your fears, all of the things that you're afraid might happen. And even if those things did happen, would you not be able to recover from that? Are you not resilient enough to pull yourself out of that? I think of some of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in my life, I've fully recovered from, even big monetary mistakes. You might be saying, well, yeah, this thing that I want to do, there is a risk of losing money. There are a lot of things that, yes, you will risk losing money, but is it really a loss or is it a cost? Because it does cost to play the game. And the bigger you play the game of life, the more cost you're going to have. But are you getting the payout? Is there a higher payout? Usually there is. So you might have to pay some up front. But if you keep going, there's going to be a greater and greater payoff. What you're really afraid of is lowering your self-worth. But the truth is, there is no such thing as self-worth. There is no way to measure your worth. It doesn't matter if you fail 100 times. Your worth, your value, who you are, it can't be measured, so it's still intact. There's nothing that's changed. With business ventures that I've had, where I was extremely concerned that if I failed, I would feel like a loser, I would feel like a failure, and I went out and I had failures. I had losses. Again, I checked myself. Am I still intact? Yes. In fact, not only am I still intact, I'm actually better off. I'm stronger now for having overcome that fear. And I'm wiser. I know one thing not to do, and I'm going to try something different. I'm going to do something different. But most people are living in their heads. They're living in this fantasy of how it all works out perfectly. And they're so afraid of tarnishing that fantasy by going out into the world and actually testing it. But that's what you absolutely have to do. If you ever want to find the deepest fulfillment and meaning and purpose in your life that you ever could, it is found in testing out those fantasies. I like to call them visions. I like them to be a little more realistic. We can run them to the edge a little bit and inflate them a little bit, and that's fine. That's good for motivation. That's good for making your visions compelling so that you can go after them. But it really actually takes destroying that fantasy in your head of everything going perfectly and no failures and no rejections. You have to pressure test that thing. You have to destroy it. You have to connect with actual reality if you're ever going to make this work. And you can do this by knowing no matter what happens, you're still safe. you're still secure. And if you're playing small and you're playing it safe all the time and you're only focused on security, then you really do nothing. You stay in your bubble, you stay in your fantasy, and you protect yourself from the possibility of failing, of things not going your way, of rejection, whatever that means, and you go nowhere. You never get to see what your true potential is. When you think about all the things that you want to do, ask yourself, really, what is at stake? What is at stake if you try something, and what is at stake if you don't try? What's at stake if you don't try, for me, is much scarier. And if you can shift your thinking to realizing that, it's going to change everything for you. For those of you who are under 40 years old, you're worried about making the right choice, the right decision. You're afraid that if you make the wrong decision, you take the wrong action, it's going to ruin your life forever. I know because I was there, and I was so cautious about everything that I did because I thought one wrong move and this could derail my life for good and I would never recover. And so I waited. And if you wait long enough, you end up on the other side of 40. And on the other side of 40, what you're worried about is it even worth it anymore to go after my dreams? Do I have time? Or should I just stay here where it's safe and secure? It's a real struggle that people have after midlife. When you are breathing your last breaths, because eventually we all will get there, are you going to look back and wish you hadn't lived an exciting life where, sure, you made a lot of mistakes, sure, some things didn't go your way, but overall, you went out there and you did the things that you wanted to do? Or will you be looking back thinking, gee, I'm so happy I lived such a safe, secure, and boring life? I think you know the answer to that. So many people are just waiting to make the right choice. They want guarantees. They want to know for absolute certain that it's going to go their way. But wouldn't that be really boring? Think about when you go to see a movie. Do you want to know what happens before it happens? Do you want to know what the ending is before you even sit down to watch the beginning? Of course you don't. You're less motivated. You're less likely to watch that movie if someone has spoiled it for you and told you all the plot twists and told you what happens at the end. Do you want your life to be that way? I think a lot of people think they do and would choose that. If you could give them all the guarantees, let them know how everything is going to happen for the rest of their life. Some people think that's what they want. But if they actually had to live that would be terrible. That would be so uninteresting. And it's not that you have to live the most exciting life. It doesn't mean you have to go chasing excitement. But without challenge, we never find out who we really are. Without challenge, we never really find out what our potential is. What if you could test that potential, really go for what you want, really challenge it out, really tease it out of you and see what's really in there? And you could do that without worrying at all that you're going to lower your worth, because that is the truth. You cannot lower your worth because that does not exist. You are born into this world with nothing, and you will leave this world with nothing. So everything in between is, who am I? What is possible? What can I do? How good can I make my life? How fulfilling, intentional, and purposeful can I make my life? What about asking those questions rather than asking yourself, is it safe? Is it secure? That lack of feeling secure, that lack of safety is really how you feel about yourself. It's an insecurity. And you're taking that insecurity and you're projecting it into the world around you. How much safety and security do you need in order to finally go after the things that you want to do? Go after those ideas that have been sitting in the back of your mind that you keep saying, someday I'm going to go for that. Someday when I feel secure and safe and I know enough, I want to go do that. Well, how much security and safety do you need? How much information do you need? How much do you need to know to then finally say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that? Because if that's what you're thinking, it's never going to be enough. It will never be enough. You need to shift your focus to what's beyond safety. So if you're wondering why you keep making the same choices you are making, why life seems repetitive and you keep doing the same things over and over again, keeping yourself in the same place, it's because you haven't been able to see past your choices. They're not conscious for you. Through hearing what I'm saying, you can make this conscious and start to understand that. And by making it conscious, then you can shift your attention to what's beyond safety, to your higher values. And of course, you want safety to be a part of your happiness. You want safety to be a part of freedom and joy and your passion. There's no reason why it can't be. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. Because the risks that you have to take to do the things that you want to do, I assure you, for 95% of the people out there, it's not that risky. The odds are not against you. Whatever the sting of rejection or the sting of failure, that's just temporary. It'll pass. Guilt is forever. Guilt and regret is for a lifetime. Most people never get over regret because they can't go back and change it. So when you're at the end of your life and you're thinking about all the things you wish you had done, you can't do anything about it. The best you can do is just accept it. Accept that you did not live your potential, that you did not live the life of intention and fulfillment, and you didn't live your potential the way that you could have. So the best you can do is accept it. That's a hard pill to swallow, but you don't have to, because you can start now and you can change this. If you cannot acknowledge right now that you are secure, you are safe, your life is stable, then you will always be trapped in your fears. Because no matter how much safety and security you add to your life, you will continue not acknowledging it. So the place to start is to right now acknowledge just how safe and just how secure your life is right now. And then ask yourself, what is the first step toward moving your life in the direction that you want it to go? And yes, that's going to be unfamiliar territory, which is going to make you uncomfortable. And that's another one. We get really focused on comfort. We think if we have enough comfort, then we will be fulfilled. But we know that's not true. How far do you want to take that? You can sit around all day watching TV, and that might feel comfortable. But after a while, it's going to get real uncomfortable when your obligations come due, your responsibilities come due. So comfort's a dead end as well. We need a little bit of it. We need enough of it, just like security and safety, but only enough so that we can take that next step into that unfamiliar territory. Allow yourself, accept that you're going to fail, accept that it's going to be uncomfortable at times. Also know that you will continue to move beyond it, and that the answer to this is not adding more safety and security. You might be able to hear this message, and at the same time, you're saying, but I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure. And I understand that. But ask yourself, why is it that you feel that way? I can tell you why you feel that way. What you feel is based on what you're focusing on. If you're focusing on all the things that can go wrong, if you're focusing on all the things that you fear, of course you're going to feel unsafe. If your life is a manifestation of what you focus on most, what kind of life do you think your fears are creating? I know what it did for me. I created a faulty foundation in my life. My fears drove me to marry the wrong person, start the wrong business, put my money in the wrong places, and it all fell apart. It wasn't until I realized that focusing on my fears, focusing on trying to add more and more security to my life was not the answer. When I understood what my highest values were and what were the behaviors and the things that I wanted to do that aligned with those values, everything started to change. If what I'm saying really speaks to you and you want to go deeper and understand this even better, you will definitely want to check out this video right here, where I take a deep dive into what are values all about. What does it truly mean to live your purpose and live a life of fulfillment beyond your fears?